my name's Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and this morning we're getting another update from FireFox Gold's chairman, Patrick Highsmith. FireFox Gold is a Finland gold explorer that trades on the Toronto Venture Stock Exchange under the symbol FFOX. Patrick, how's everything going?
Very well, Megan. It's been a good week.
Now, before we dive into the latest news from FireFox, could you please give us a brief overview of the company and your portfolio of projects in Finland?
Yes, Megan, happy to do that. We are a pure play Finland gold story, just as you said, and our CEO is based in Finland. Most of our technical team is based in Finland. So we're really focused on the central Lapland greenstone belt in northern Finland. And there you see a picture of our exploration manager who built his house in the Arctic and lives minutes from the projects. And so we're really committed here. We've got a balance of senior team and younger team on the ground. And really, we've just been riding the wave on this sort of new gold rush in northern Finland. And that's really the core of FireFox. Is the slide here shows the central Lapland greenstone belt and some highlights there, some of the cities and infrastructure that are fantastic in this part of Finland. But importantly, new gold discoveries are happening as well. The Rupert's Ikkari deposit is kind of in the center of this slide and has been in the news all over the place. But Agnico Eagle operates the very large Kittilä gold mine up here. Most of the ground is fully pegged. Everything's just sort of staked up, Megan, but we highlight some of the FireFox properties here in gold over this huge land position that we have. And we're going to talk today about our Mustajärvi project right in the center of this slide, where we've been drilling quite a bit over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and yesterday you had some more high-grade results from the Mustajärvi project. Could you run us through an overview of the release?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to begin with a little bit of history because Mustajärvi has been around for a little while, but really has been kind of some breakthroughs of late. It was actually discovered in about 1996 by Outokumpu, the national mining company of Finland. And a little bit of drilling, very, very limited, but they found some narrow high grade. We acquired the project in 2018, began drilling right away, listed the company with Mustajärvi in our portfolio, and had some good early results in 2018, 2019. But the things really began to progress as we grew this thing in 2020 and 2021, Megan, because we stepped out, and I think I can show it on this slide. We stepped out here to the northeast, up in this area along this structure. And then we got into this area called the Northeast Target in 2020 and 2021, reported some great results there, some high grade, pretty shallow, 100, 150 meters down for the most part. And the growth was coming at that time. Then again, in 2021, we jumped further out to the northeast, out in this area up here, to the East Target. And really, things really took off last year in 2022 with a lot more results in that area of the East Target. So it's along a big structure, Megan, and as these orogenic gold deposits often are. And really, I think the story is an initial historic indication. FireFox acquired the project, came in, started applying modern technology and drilling and making some results. In this sort of view, what we're doing is we're looking at a slice along this major structure that I mentioned, and it kind of shows up at this color break right through here. Okay, more or less, it's kind of a little bit squiggly, but that line actually trends to the northeast. We've pivoted it here because we're going to do a vertical slice through there. But it shows you those magnetic colors. That's kind of important because the magnetics are telling us that the warm colors are mafic volcanic rocks and ultramafic rocks, and the cooler colors are telling us about these metasediments. And it's right at that contact zone that we've been focusing at Mustajärvi. And we've kind of bent the slide here, and on the bottom half, you're seeing a slice through the earth over more than 2 kilometers of the system. Just a couple things for the nerds in the audience. It's an orogenic gold system. It's related to this major shear zone. But if you look carefully at this image, you can see there are sort of these bends in it here, these sort of kinks in it. And everywhere there's one of these bends, there's sometimes some cross structures in it, like we see here. We see some in this area. We see some over here in this area. That's sort of the recipe for orogenic gold. You need a big fault. You need a lot of plumbing. So every time we see a bend or something like that, we get excited. Along this structure, the rock's been flooded with albite and sericite for kilometers. And then within that, we see these cooler areas, the blues and the greens. And those are where the magnetite has been destroyed. The property's been changed. The rocks have been changed by the alteration. And let me tell you, Megan, green means go. Because when we see green on this slide where those drill holes are, we've drilled a good bit of gold. And we're showing in this cross section at the bottom. Again, this is over 2 kilometers in total, but we're going to look at about 1.5 kilometers of it right there. And you can see there we reference the central zone, and we reference the northeast target and the east target. And we've shown you the gold intercepts as bubbles. So a few things you see, look up at the slide up above where the holes are, the drill holes are, and then look down below, and you can see the central zone, good bit of gold comes to surface. In the northeast, a little bit deeper, not deep, it's about 100 to 150 meters. And then at the east target again, that's where we're going to talk about today. Things have sort of come to the surface. We're going to talk a little bit about why that is and what those results are. And that's what we're going to cover with this slide. So we've zoomed in now to the east target, showing you a map of recent drilling. Almost all of this is 2022 drilling here. And the story is that the intercepts in this area have gotten a bit thicker. They are on the order of 15 meters very commonly. We typically are seeing, again, I'll just point out real quick on this slide, see this sort of linear break here. There's kind of a break over here. There's kind of a break in here. These are probably big structures, and these structures come together. We get excited about that, and we drill, and we hit gold. And the news release yesterday had the numbers shown here, the sort of last 2 bullet points, 13 meters of over 15 grams per ton from only 29.6 meters downhole, 12.55 meters of 14.3 grams from 14 meters downhole. And then the earlier intercepts from drill holes 21 and 22 are also shown there. And we show with color symbols at surface, see these drill holes going in all different directions because we have multiple directions of mineralization. And you can see things are starting to cluster together there. There's a nice blob taking shape in here. We've seen more of it over here now. And you see little bits around the edges as well. So this thing is still open, and there is potential to grow it.
And this is a great place to talk about growth potential, as the release mentions that the target remains open to the east, northwest, and southwest. Will the next phase focus on expanding this target, or is there additional potential that remains at depth underneath these latest drill intercepts?
Well, as usual, a lot of science, unfortunately, in that answer. But the blue arrows tell the story, Megan. We tried to simplify that. And what you're seeing is, remember, some of these intercepts sort of in the middle of the slide are basically right at surface. Some are a little bit deeper. So what seems to be happening is we have a near surface lobe, which has not been drilled out yet. So you can imagine we're going to be filling in. We got a nice sort of kind of a orthogonal drill pattern here, a nice little cohesive shape. We'll be filling in around that, and you can just see a few areas that are pretty obvious. Obviously you're going to do a little bit more drilling here. You're going to come over here. You're going to go here. Very importantly, you're going to be going down in this area. So within the pattern, we're going to be filling in. And as good geologists say, sort of don't go too far yet. You don't know what's out there. So you're going to drill kind of close at first. But then you also see that it's continuously, even off the slide to the southwest, to the south, we've got some intercepts down there that need to be followed up. And some of those are a bit deeper, and they may be linked to near surface mineralization. So there's lots of potential for growth. And to explain that a little bit more, I'm just going to show the 2 styles of mineralization so people can relate to that. On the left, a bunch of really, really sexy assays and good numbers that we've been putting out here. I've highlighted those in red. And the photo on top there actually was from our first hole of thicker high-grade mineralization here. You can actually see, if you look close in this slide, in this photo here, a little bit of visible gold, but it comes in the form of that vein just to the left of it. It's quartz. The black mineral is tourmaline. You see some brassy pyrite in there. So quartz and pyrite and tourmaline are in these veins. Those are pretty tight, 1 to 2 meters wide, sometimes a bit wider, but often very high grade with visible gold. And those are at a high angle like this. But on the other photos, Megan, I'm showing the other style of mineralization, what we call replacement. If you look here, you can see the pyrite is more flat-lying relative to the core axis. It's really replacing where bedding planes are. So the rock itself is being replaced with quartz and pyrite, and sericite, and gold. And that creates bigger volumes of mineralization. And in the right-hand photo, you can even see a structure with a vein on it cutting through these flat-lying bands. And here's a big blob of pyrite, which has gold in it. And this is from hole 18, where we were able to show both styles of mineralization in one hole. So sort of the flat-lying stuff has gold in it, and then the high-angle stuff also has gold in it. So now stretch that back out to the bigger picture, and we'll show you how we would expect to grow this. This is a long section through the mineralization, and we've outlined on the lower right the shape of this profile you're looking at. And so you're looking kind of to the north here, and you can see several of the drill holes outlining that this lobe of mineralization comes to surface. Okay, as I said, just below a little bit of glacial sediments up here. Right up here is, 5 to 10 meters of glacial sediments. And then notice these gray lines we've drawn. There's some folding in them. Those are the bedding in the rocks. So at one time, these were sedimentary rocks or volcanic rocks that behaved like sediments. And so the gold is kind of following that pattern, as you can see in this section, Megan, but it's also going to depth a little bit. So this is a slice in a northeast-southwest direction. A couple more 3D images as we sort of wrap up the technical part. Here you see a section that's northwest-southeast, and this shows hole 24 that we just announced. With hole 24, we were hoping to test for a continuation of the near-surface stuff, and we also hit some significant high grade at depth. Down here at depth, we had 170 grams per ton locally. Over 100 grams per ton shows up commonly in this area. And you can see it's kind of got a bit of a folded shape to it. If you look closely, you can kind of imagine there might be kind of a fold in here like this. And so as we put this together, the near surface is kind of capping things off, and then it tails off to depth. We tend to hit a little bit of mineralization both at surface and going to depth. So that's a slice through hole 24. And then the other hole we announced yesterday was hole 25, and that's shown here. And again, we had a mission with that hole. And with that hole, we wanted to see how far the mineralization went to the north. You can see there's a nice blob up there to the north, comes to surface below the glacial sediments again. Nice thick zone of good grade there in hole 25. But if you look really closely down here, you can see there are actually a lot of significant assays deeper in the hole. We mentioned those in the news release. That's the first drilling in that area. That's going to the south. There's a big fault structure down here that we believe could be really important. And when you get down here, it's new territory for us. So there's potential both to depth, as you asked about, Megan, but also in the near surface. And we had to put these 3D pictures together. We put a lot of graphics in this news release so people could visualize this lobe of mineralization at surface, which is still open and yielding excellent grades and thicknesses, and these deeper intercepts, which might link up more of these sort of things. Anywhere you see this sort of pattern with the bedding planes intersecting these structures, we could see more gold there. So we had a lot more drilling to do for sure, but a lot of growth potential here. And I just want to point out with these holes, I think these are the 9th and 10th holes with more than about 100 gram meters of grade thickness. So we would take the total grade of gold times the thickness of those intervals above cutoff, multiply that number. That gives us what we call grade thickness. And these are the 9th and 10th holes over 1.5 kilometers that we've hit that sort of volume of gold mineralization. Super exciting results.
Yeah, and these results cap off what looks to have been a very successful drill program for the company in this eastern target area. Would you say that the company is getting a better understanding of the structural geology of this deposit?
Yeah, and that's what I was pounding on sort of in these slides. I probably got a little bit ahead of you there, but exactly right. That's really the biggest takeaway technically for it, Megan, was we see the faulting, which controls veins. That's structural geology. How are these rocks broken? But we also see the folding. That's also structural geology. And the beds have been, they're just basically chemically suitable for the gold to come in there. And as the rocks are folded and faulted, that creates more porosity and permeability. And that's where the fluids go. And frankly, in orogenic gold, that's the number one thing we've got to be looking at is what's controlling the shape and the grade. And that's structural geology. And this is how you put structural geology to work.
Now, Patrick, can you quickly walk us through what the next steps are for the company for the upcoming 2023 exploration season at Mustajärvi?
it's very exciting, these next steps, Megan, because as I pointed out, this thing is open and we're going to both fill in and step out. But with all this learning we've done, we're going to keep applying those systematics here. So we're going to return to the East Target for sure. As I said, these intercepts need to be filled in and we can see clear areas we need to be looking. I'll go back a couple slides to those arrows because that'll help people when they see the next, work program. When we announce the work program coming out, you're going to be imagining us filling in this pattern and also following those blue arrows. And remember, green means go. So there's some good green and blue on this slide we've got to put more drill holes into. But the other thing we've got the opportunity to do here, Megan, is we've got a lobe of gold mineralization with grade coming to surface here, and the volume's starting to add up. So that means we need to do some more work. We're going to excavate some trenches here, and we'll also drill some specially designed shallow holes to get into the heart of this zone to collect mini bulk samples for the first metallurgical test work ever. We can just put a shallow trench here, Megan, and we can walk into this shallow mineralization and get samples and really learn more about it. And some of that is metallurgical test work, and that'll be happening for the first time this year at Mustajärvi. And we'll probably be telling folks with a news release in the next month or so a bit more about our work program. But the other thing to remember is there's 2 kilometers of this fault. It took us a while to figure out what was going on at the East Target because it's so shallow. We found it being so shallow, and now we're going to look along that structure more to apply what we learned here, because very likely when you start to figure out these patterns, you'll be able to apply them to other targets on this property. But as you know, FireFox has got a huge portfolio of properties here. So we'll also be doing some more greenfields exploration this year, which we'll be announcing as well. So a lot of work at Mustajärvi. We've got a lot to do, but we'll also be applying that learning elsewhere.
Patrick, to cap things off, is there anything else that you'd like to highlight before we let you go?
I think essential to all this, and folks should remember as they get to know companies like ours, how important the team is. This is incredible work done by cutting edge structural geologists with a really excellent drilling company collecting good data for us. So you wouldn't believe the measurements we do on all this rock, Megan, to figure this geometry out. It's very complicated. So I just want to give a shout out to the team and stay tuned, follow our story. We've got some video content out there. We'll be at the upcoming Prospectors and Developers Association conference in Toronto, hopefully meeting folks there. A couple of our geologists who made this discovery will be there. So stay tuned, get to know the people behind these stories, and follow what we're doing, because we got a lot of ground in a very prospective part of the world. And meanwhile, Rupert is pretty close to running off and building a mine at the new Ikkari discovery in Finland. So there's a lot happening in Finland. And it's very exciting times to be working there.
And once again, we want to thank you for coming on the show today, Patrick. We'll be watching the company closely and look forward to having you on again soon.
Great to be here. Thank you.